Are you one of the many busy professionals working in offices day in and day out? Do you wonder how some people grow their wealth fast, retire early, and play on workdays? Well, you're in luck, because Ginny Bolling hosts this show, Pivot to Prosperity, where she interviews people that can do just that. Play on workdays. Many guests have become financially free. She also interviews people that are on their journey and people that are in support roles, like attorneys, contractors, brokers, and others. Commercial real estate is the common element. She is on a mission to be sure busy professionals know they can own substantial commercial properties too, like apartments, self-storage facilities, and others, and not have to do the work managing them. Passive investing is the key. Syndications are the typical method. Tax write-offs are some of the biggest rewards. Ginny and partners find the deals, build a strong team and business plan, then offer the investment opportunities to passive investors. New episodes are released every Tuesday at 12, so watch for new releases. If you want to get involved, let us know. You need to get pre-qualified to hear about most deals. See the show notes for contact information.
Hello. Ginny Bolling here today with Heather Ewing, and we are on with Pivot to Prosperity. The show is brought to you by Pivotal Real Estate Investments, where we help investors build wealth and income through commercial real estate that also improves communities. And so, Heather, I have enjoyed talking with you before we started recording, and you have such an interesting life. You really do. I really hope you can touch on a lot of that as I hand you the mic to introduce yourself, okay?
Definitely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, Jenny. It's a true joy and pleasure to be with you and connect with your audience today.
Thank you.
Yeah, high level, my firm is Abstract Commercial Real Estate. I founded it right as the doors of COVID opened. We're a boutique retail and restaurant commercial group in downtown Madison, Wisconsin. We also have an emphasis with mixed use developments and sales. And it's a really interesting trajectory of using a backbone of supply chain from a career 11 years ago of implementing that into commercial real estate. So it's really good at prioritizing, and then you layer all of the commercial real estate of the relationships, the deal flow, the knowledge, and of course, understanding the region. So we've culminated something really, really unique to offer.
Nice. Okay. And so, how did you end up coming into real estate?
Right. So the interesting part was years ago, I was in supply chain for those 11 years, and I had a life-altering car accident. And it's always a blessing in disguise years later. So with that, it really started me asking in my early 20s, who am I? What am I? What do I want to do? And I tried various different areas and trying to find out my passion, my purpose, and also how I can align my skills. And over the years, a friend introduced it, commercial real estate, which I had never thought of. And I interviewed with a few different firms, and that's how I got involved with it over 11 years ago.
Great. Okay. And um, why don't we go ahead and touch on the severity of that accident? Because I think that it
Sure.
can be very inspirational for people that have been through a big accident.
Yeah, definitely. So, it really leveled me, and I struggled with it for years, but I had broken my neck and also broken the bones in my face. So they created me a new titanium eye orbit, cheekbone, stitched up my eyelids, through my face, my gums, and luckily, my neck healed. So it was the top vertebrae, your A1, your atlas. So somehow I was able to walk a mile and got the help that I needed. But it really took me back for quite a while. And I
You
think
mean
when
the
you have
day of the
something,
accident, you had to walk a mile?
I did, yeah. So I'm very fortunate to be here. And so I was given a second chance. And I think when you're given an opportunity like that, you don't take it for granted. And with that, that's when those deep questions came of, okay, I'm here for a reason. And what is that reason? So that just started a litany of questions and really self-excavation. So instead of it happening in my 50s, I was in my early 20s.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so now, well,
Now I
tell
get to reap
about
the
all the
benefits.
other, the karate and that too.
Yes. So it was kind of like a bull in a china cabinet, Ginny, of what was completely dismantled. And I knew that wasn't working. And I knew I had to make some changes, but I didn't know what they were. And I think life purpose at any age can be very daunting. But if it hadn't happened so abruptly, I'm kind of a stubborn person. I would have clung to the past of what I knew and things of that nature. So with that major disruption in my life, I did start pursuing different areas. I mean, I looked into an art business, which I had for several years, fitness business. I got into different sports. I got into karate, kickboxing, hot yoga, rappelling, and now currently running marathons around the world. But it really helped me to become comfortable in the unknown. And it also really instilled within me a confidence that grew over time of just knowing that no matter what happens in life, I think when you're connected and you have that powerful question of what can I do to get to this next phase? How can I be of benefit to people of, all different areas and arenas? And some of those really big, powerful questions deliver powerful results. And that has really carried me through the decades since.
Yeah, it seems like when you go into something, you go in full bore too, it sounds
I
like.
do.
Yes,
Bull in a china cabinet. It's
because you
yes,
were
it's laser focus. I am 200% in. There's no wishy-washy.
there's a lot to be said for that too. Yeah, because you
Yeah.
got two national karate championships, right?
Right. Right. So,
Phenomenal.
and this is the interesting thing too, is I've noticed throughout my life a lot of dichotomy. And so with those two, they were like 5 foot national trophies. That one was in forms, which is very precise, and that's where I also learned performance. I remember my teacher, he was just like, they don't know what you have planned. So it's in how you cue it or your facial expressions that's either going to make them think you stuck your landing or you failed miserably. And so that has translated beautifully throughout life and commercial real estate, right?
That's
The
a
other
gold nugget.
part, yes, yes. And I feel so fortunate to have learned these life skill sets at an early age, and you continue to refine because I don't think we're ever done. And I truly have a zest for learning, for growing, and propelling my life and also other people's forward. Because I think, if you're just focusing on yourself, that's, you might have little wins here and there, but it's very lackluster. And it's really how do you bring everyone up and just expand it forward? So then on the other end of that was fighting. So I was good at fighting, and it was funny. I have two older sisters and a younger brother. And again, I have intentionally put myself in really uncomfortable positions to grow. And there was something with that accident that, um, like deep within, like it's not okay to be afraid. Like it's okay, but you need to move through it. And that has really propelled me through in not only commercial real estate, but also founding and operating my own firm 5 years ago. So it's doing the things that scare you the most within reason. Another one was when my face was completely disfigured, and I learned the power of words early on because I remember when I was younger saying, if something happened to my face, I wouldn't want to live. Right. Which shows you kind of societal pressure and also being a younger woman at the time. And I just remember that. And I was like, oh my God, the one thing that was taken out. Right. So again, a blessing in disguise. And I say these hard lessons, they either bury you or they give you wings. And it's your choice. And I've learned that finally. So the beauty of, at 51 is I get it in a whole new perspective. And really my joy is to help open that within each person through commercial real estate, through my marathon running, and just how we connect with people. So it's something I'm very grateful many, many years later.
That's terrific. And we were talking a little before about how it's important to bring these things out so that people
Mhm.
that feel ignored or feel like they just are too odd or unsuited,
Right,
that they realize, oh, they did it too, or they've overcome that, or yeah. So
right.
that's huge. And so I am trying to get people, older people, to get moving. So I'm embracing the
Yes.
pickleball and tennis more and more.
I love it.
Yeah.
But I think that's such an important message, Jenny. And that's something too that I'm right there with you of you don't have to be a runner. Find some type of movement. And you've probably
Yeah.
experienced this too, where I think people don't try enough of
Yeah.
the different, whether it's dance or pickleball or basketball, racquetball, walking, hiking.
Yeah.
There's so many different opportunities. And I think if I had a wish for people that they would get uncomfortable enough because you will find that sweet spot. And, going back to that example with my face, what I did to overcome that is I threw myself, so it was my first career outside of college. I was like 22. I threw myself into a part-time Christmas job at Aveda, right? So known for beauty, I was horrified. I didn't want anyone in my face because also at the time, my accident was new. My face was less symmetrical because all of these muscles had to heal. And I just remember I just felt so uncomfortable. It was the last thing I wanted to do. But it also set me free. And it's kind of like, hey, we all have different things. You can't go back and change. So do the best that you can. And that also really helped me to understand and I see our lives as portfolios. You have to develop, you know what I mean? Be a good person, care about people, have good conversations, move people forward. And so to me, it was not about being the prettiest in the room. It was really how do I bring the most to the room and how do I make people feel good? How do I feel good? And how do I align with what I'm here to do, right? So it really shifted a trajectory for me.
Yeah, that was really smart of you to do that.
Yeah.
I bet.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Cool. All right. So you are the retail queen, I guess, in Madison
Yes.
too, right? Does anybody
Yes.
call you that?
They do. I've always said, gosh, if I only knew about this in the early days. I'm like, I've always loved shopping. I've always loved eating. You can marry the two.
Yeah. Well, so talk about what you're doing or maybe a project you're working on with something so that people can relate most especially to the redevelopment and if you don't mind.
Definitely. No, happy to. So I do find myself with a lot of creative investors, landlords, things of that nature, where obviously the numbers, you need to hit your return and all of that. But it's also, I think, a creative means of how do you back in to get the different numbers. So for example, I'm working with a California investor right now. They're new to the market. And the nice thing is having lived in the Madison market for over 40 years and in the downtown specifically for over 11, that having those relationships, I have access to a lot of properties that are not on the market. And so as we all know, in commercial real estate, that's gold. So I'm working with my group. We found a property. We worked through all the different numbers, site to do business. I love it for generating all those demographics, the psychographics. Are we in the right spot? So we decided that we are. And then also within the property of will it be demolished? Will partial areas be just redeveloped? What is the best use for it? And that's also where bringing through the contractor and all of the subs of are the elevators still, do they have a useful life? Where are we at with our power, with the electric, plumbing, all of these different factors? So in this particular case, the number ended up jumping to about twice the amount for it. So it's at 9 million. So it's really taking a step back of what are we able to do to make the investment work or are we not able to? And then it's also getting creative of could we put in on different floors maybe more apartments, right? Or will it be some of the office? In networking with different groups out of the Milwaukee market, which is about 75 miles outside of Madison, class A going hot, B and C kiss it goodbye. Just it's vacant, it's not helpful. So it's also understanding how the city works, understanding the permitting processes, the timings, also down to simple things such as signage, rezoning when needed. And this is what all of this I term artful. And it's taking developers that I work with out of Chicago or the South, buying land for them, developing their retail uses, or maybe it's shifting retail to a restaurant, upgrading the power, all those different things, the uses, working with the city or working with another developer on a project for something completely different and helping them understand what metrics are important to lease out to solid triple net tenants and really maximizing their value for themselves and also the fellow investors. So it's really fun and I love it. And no 2 days are the same.
Yeah, I get that. So do you have a list of minimums pretty much that you look at when you say what they have to have as far as so for a property to be suited for restaurants or something of that nature?
So the nice thing about it is it really depends on, is it a local or regional operator? Is it national? Is it a fast casual or is it a restaurant? Is it retail? Is it drive-through? Are we going to have to try to work with the city for additional zoning? The access, the parking ratios. So it's really quite specific to the operator and the user. And is it a standalone or is it mixed use? In either of those cases, you are looking to create the synergies and the aligned shopping or the experience. And that's also where placemaking is really happening throughout communities. And I'm on a few different boards, and it was nice. We had an economic development meeting the other day, and we were talking about that in downtown Madison and 3 different sectors that we're focusing on to really provide greater value, greater experience. It increases revenues. And also it really helps with people's psyche, their health of the population. And it just really extends into so many more avenues. So I really like that the softer side is being integrated into commercial real estate because I think for something to be rich, you need both. You need your hard numbers, you need the solid metrics, but also when you work with something a little less tangible, the softer side, you get that beautiful ideal mix. And that's what we're going for. It's not just putting a tenant in, it's just not getting the rent rolls where you want them. It's really up leveling the area, creating value, and really drawing people in from other communities, states, and countries to experience.
So when you're looking at a potential mixed use with, say, retail on the first floor and
Mhm.
residential above, do you all in Madison can only talk certain areas, it's different everywhere you go, but in your case,
Right.
is it better usually to be looking at apartments or is it good to be more at a transient or midterm rental kind of a situation?
It really depends on the area within Dane County. So mixed use is a heavenly, heavenly delight in certain areas. And for that, you really need solid pedestrian counts. You need great parking ratios. You also need the amenities, the fast casuals, the comedy clubs, areas for them to shop, experience, eat, and thrive. When you get further out, that's where it's more challenging, but you also have the 5-minute rings where people now in the suburbs are also wanting little communities where they can do all of that, which was typically only in a downtown, but also in the suburbs. So like many other states, we really need more housing. And that's where too, it depends on where the new development is going of what I recommend just multifamily or what I recommend in mixed use. Um, you know, Bringing in that advisory is really important because it does help the developer determine ceiling heights, parking ratios, if it's drive-through. These days, it's really crucial for the different fast casuals, cafes to have the 15-minute parking, right? If you don't, good luck leasing it out. There's going to be challenges, right? And so you're able to provide them with those metrics so that it will be successful when you lease it out for them. Because a vacancy, I mean, that can easily cost you 10, 15 grand a month in lost revenue. So
Right. So
It's
much depends on
important.
that leverage, yeah, that what you commit to.
Right.
So that's huge, the holding costs, and to have a consultant like you is invaluable. If that's 40 years in that market, yeah, I can only imagine you should be the retail queen.
Thank you. Yes, I have a lot of connections in different ways, and the really nice thing about it too is taking an artful approach. People have learned about some of the deals that I do, or just the work I do, and I mean it still blows my mind. I was coming back from ICSC in Vegas, and someone recognized my voice from one of my videos. And because had been then following me, they understood what I do, how I do it, how I help different operators of different sizes. And so I've gotten work that way as well. So I've always been very big on boots on the ground, of having the knowledge and the expertise and knowing what you do well and referring out what you don't. And that has always, I would say, probably been my strongest suit of having the deal experience, knowing what I'm doing, or referring it out. And I think it's
I know
really
you got a
crucial
hard
for
stop, so
someone.
we're going to wrap it up quick here too. But let me just add to that. You've
Sure.
paid the dues. You've got your CCIM, which is a
Right.
critical piece and
Right.
qualification to be able to speak.
Definitely. And I
But so
started the business without a book of business. So it's all been through cold calling, networking, establishing relationships, doing the deals, serving on CCIM, for the Midwest and other things that have helped me to
pay your
grow and
dues.
be where I'm at.
Yep, that works. That works. All right.
Yes.
So real quick, is there a pivotal person or event? We've talked about a few probably that
Yes.
has brought you to where you are today that you would want to say, or pushing you to a certain goal?
Definitely. So I would say two. One was definitely the life-altering car accident. It really set me off on a trajectory that I'm so grateful for it now, right? And also the choices I've made. But for the pivotal person, I would say hats off definitely to Beth Azor. She was a coach of mine. She is the canvassing queen. And
Ah,
she's in Florida. She's originally from Wisconsin, and she just taught me great skills and also mindset. She's fantastic.
so you get to tell her you nominated her, or I can tell
I
her you
will.
did.
I
Okay.
will. Happy to.
And you spell her last name Azor?
Yes.
Okay. And I know I need to
Beth
let you run.
Azor.
Real quick, say how people can reach you though.
Sure.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Heather Ewing, which is Ewing. Or you can call me on my cell if you have questions about Madison, 608-239-4781.
Terrific. All right. Well, so thank you very much. I'll stay in touch with you too, because like I said, love mixed use and am trying to
Yes.
get it going. My backyard needs a lot of that.
Ah, happy to help, Ginny, and thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, thank you. You take care.
You
Appreciate
too.
it. Bye.
Bye-bye.